1977. A Sydney music venue. Michael Hutchence watches a band perform and notices the saxophonist. There's something about this guy, the way he moves on stage, the way he plays. After the show, Michael walks up and introduces himself. The saxophonist's name is Kirk Pengilly. They start talking about music, about bands they love, about what they want to do with their lives. And by the end of that conversation, a friendship has begun that will last 20 years. Kirk will join INXS partly because Michael is in it. They'll share stages around the world. They'll create music together. They'll laugh together, party together, struggle together. And when Michael dies in November 1997, Kirk will lose not just a bandmate, but his closest friend. This is the story of Michael Hutchence and Kirk Pengilly, a friendship that defined both their lives, the bond that held INXS together, and what it means to watch someone you love slip away and not know how to save them. Let me start at the beginning, because understanding how Michael and Kirk met explains why their friendship was different from typical band relationships. In 1977, INXS was still forming. The Ferris brothers, Andrew, Tim, and John, were the core. Michael had joined as the singer. They were playing around Sydney, building a following, but they needed something more. They wanted a fuller sound, something that would set them apart. Michael had been thinking about adding a saxophone player, which wasn't common in rock bands at the time. Most bands stuck with the standard guitar, bass, drums lineup. But Michael had vision for something different. Kirk Pengilly was playing in another Sydney band at the time. He was a skilled musician, classically trained on saxophone, but drawn to rock and roll. He was also looking for the right situation, the right group of people to create something special with. When Michael saw Kirk perform, he immediately recognized talent. But more than that, he recognized a kindred spirit. Kirk had that same hunger, that same desire to do something bigger than the Sydney pub circuit. After they met, Michael essentially recruited Kirk to join INXS, not through the band formally, but through friendship. He convinced Kirk that this was the band to be in, that together they could make something great. Kirk joined INXS in 1977, and from the start, he and Michael had special chemistry. On stage, they played off each other naturally. Michael would move toward Kirk during sax solos, and they'd have these moments of connection that audiences could feel. It wasn't rehearsed or planned. It was genuine friendship manifesting in performance. Offstage, they gravitated toward each other. In the early days, when INXS was traveling in a van between gigs, Michael and Kirk would sit together talking for hours about music, about life, about dreams and fears and everything in between. The friendship worked partly because they balanced each other. Michael was the charismatic frontman, emotional and intense. Kirk was more grounded, quieter, analytical. Michael could get lost in his feelings, and Kirk would help bring him back to earth. Kirk could get too serious or overthink things, and Michael would make him laugh and remember to enjoy the moment. They complemented each other in ways that made both of them better people and better performers. As INXS started achieving success through the early 80s, Michael and Kirk's friendship deepened. They experienced everything together. The struggle of the early years, sleeping on floors, eating cheap food and wondering if they'd ever make it. The gradual climb, getting better gigs, releasing albums, building a following, and eventually the breakthrough when Kick made them global superstars. Through all of it, Michael and Kirk had each other. When the pressure got intense, when the fame became overwhelming, they could talk to each other honestly in ways they couldn't with anyone else. There's a specific quality to friendships formed in your late teens and early 20s. You're still figuring out who you are, and the people alongside you during that time become part of your identity. Michael and Kirk grew up together in many ways, even though they were already adults when they met. They shaped each other's perspectives, influenced each other's choices, became intertwined in each other's lives. That's different from friendships formed later when you're already set in your ways. Michael and Kirk built themselves partially through their friendship with each other. On stage, the Michael-Kirk dynamic was central to INXS's appeal. Yes, Michael was the front man and the focus, but Kirk wasn't just a sideman. He was a presence, a personality, a crucial part of the energy. When Kirk played saxophone solos, Michael would often stand back and let Kirk have the spotlight. He gestured to Kirk, encouraging the crowd to cheer for him. Michael never felt threatened by sharing attention. He genuinely wanted his friend to shine. That generosity of spirit is rare in frontmen, who often want all eyes on them. But Michael loved Kirk and wanted everyone to see how talented he was.
The saxophone became iconic, partly because of what Kirk brought to it. In songs like Never Tear Us Apart, Kirk's sax solo is as essential as Michael's vocals. The instrument became associated with INXS's sound, giving them something distinctive. That was Kirk's contribution, and Michael always acknowledged it. In interviews, when asked about INXS's sound, Michael would often bring up Kirk's sax as a crucial element. He made sure Kirk got credit and recognition. But the friendship wasn't just professional. They spent time together outside of band obligations. In the 80s, when INXS was on top of the world, Michael and Kirk would escape the craziness together. They'd go surfing, something they both loved. They'd have dinners, just the two of them, talking about things that had nothing to do with music or fame. They had inside jokes, shared memories, the kind of intimate friendship history that can't be explained to outsiders. Kirk understood Michael in ways few people did, and Michael trusted Kirk completely. By the early 90s, though, Kirk started noticing changes in Michael. Nothing dramatic at first, just subtle shifts. Michael seemed more moody, more withdrawn sometimes. He'd have darker periods where he wasn't his usual charismatic self. Kirk would ask if everything was okay, and Michael would brush it off, say he was fine, just tired or stressed. Kirk didn't push too hard because that wasn't their dynamic. They respected each other's space, but Kirk worried. After the Copenhagen assault in 1992, when Michael suffered the brain injury that changed his personality, Kirk definitely noticed the difference. Michael was angrier, more unpredictable. He'd snap at people over small things. He'd miss rehearsals or show up late, which he'd never done before. Kirk tried to talk to him about it, but Michael didn't want to discuss the injury or how it was affecting him. He just wanted to move forward, to not dwell on what had happened. Kirk respected that, but also felt helpless watching his friends struggle. The mid-90s were particularly hard on their friendship because Michael's life became increasingly chaotic. His relationship with Paula Yates was intense and tumultuous. The custody battle over her daughter consumed his energy and mental health. Michael was drinking more, using substances more, isolated from many old friends. Kirk would call him, try to arrange times to hang out, but Michael was often unavailable or distracted. The easy closeness they'd always had became harder to maintain. Kirk has talked in interviews about feeling like he was losing Michael during those years. Not losing him physically, but losing access to who he really was. The Michael that Kirk had known for 20 years was disappearing under layers of pain, addiction, and chaos. Kirk would see glimpses of his friend occasionally, moments where the old Michael would emerge, laughing or joking or being present. But those moments became rarer. Most of the time, Michael seemed like he was somewhere else, unreachable. Other band members noticed the same thing, but Kirk felt it more deeply because of how close they'd been. It's one thing to watch a bandmate struggle. It's another thing to watch your best friend slowly unravel and not know how to help. Kirk tried talking to Michael directly. He tried talking to other band members about intervention options. He tried getting management involved. But Michael was an adult making his own choices, and nobody could force him to get help he didn't want. There's this particular pain in watching someone you love self-destruct. You can see where it's heading, you can see the danger, but you can't control another person's decisions. Kirk experienced that fully in the mid-90s. He'd lie awake at night worrying about Michael. He'd have conversations with his own wife about what more he could do. But ultimately, Michael had to want to change, had to want help, and he wasn't there yet. He was still functioning enough, still able to perform, still able to convince people he was okay. The last time Kirk saw Michael was in November 1997, during rehearsals for the INXS 20th anniversary tour. They were preparing for what should have been a celebration, 2 decades of making music together. Michael seemed off during those rehearsals, distracted and tense. Kirk noticed but didn't realize how serious things were. They had a conversation, nothing deep or meaningful, just normal band talk about the set list and the tour schedule. If Kirk had known it was the last time he'd talked to his friend, he would have said so much more. But he didn't know.
November 22nd, 1997. Kirk was in Sydney when he got the call that Michael had been found dead in his hotel room. Kirk's world shattered. His best friend for 20 years was gone. The person he'd grown up with, created music with, shared countless moments with, was suddenly just gone. Kirk has described that moment as the worst of his life. The shock, the disbelief, the overwhelming grief of losing someone so central to your existence. In the days and weeks after Michael's death, Kirk struggled with multiple emotions. Grief, obviously, but also guilt. Could he have done more? Should he have pushed harder to get Michael help? Were there signs he missed? Kirk knew intellectually that Michael's death wasn't his fault, that addiction and mental health are complex issues beyond any one person's ability to fix. But emotionally, he carried the weight of what if. What if he'd made Michael talk about the Copenhagen injury? What if he'd staged a proper intervention? What if? Kirk also had to process the loss while dealing with media attention and public grief. Everyone wanted to talk about Michael, wanted quotes from band members, wanted Kirk to explain what happened. But Kirk was trying to just survive each day, to figure out how to exist in a world where his best friend was gone. He's talked about how surreal it was, standing at Michael's funeral, giving a eulogy, saying goodbye to someone who'd been part of his daily life for 2 decades. The decision about whether INXS should continue after Michael's death was agonizing for Kirk. Part of him felt like the band died with Michael. How do you be in INXS without Michael Hutchence? He was the voice, the face, the essence of what the band was. But another part of Kirk felt like the music and legacy deserved to continue, that the other 5 members who'd worked just as hard had a right to keep playing. Kirk ultimately supported continuing, though it was never the same. It couldn't be. Over the years since Michael's death, Kirk has been one of the most vocal band members in keeping Michael's memory alive. He's given countless interviews talking about their friendship, about who Michael really was beyond the tabloid headlines. Kirk wants people to remember Michael as the talented, kind, funny person he knew, not just as a tragic ending. In those interviews, you can hear the love and the loss in Kirk's voice. 20-plus years later, it still hurts. Kirk has also been honest about his own struggles with grief and mental health after losing Michael. He went through depression, questioning everything about his life and career. He had to learn how to be Kirk Pengilly without Michael Hutchence, which was harder than anyone who hasn't experienced that kind of loss can understand. Your identity becomes intertwined with your closest friendships, and when that person is gone, you have to rebuild who you are. There's footage of INXS performing after Michael's death with different singers, and you can see Kirk during those performances. He's playing the saxophone parts, hitting the notes, doing the job. But there's a visible emptiness in his eyes sometimes. He's remembering performing these songs with Michael. He's feeling the absence of his friend every single night. The music continues, but the joy is diminished because the person he made that music with is gone. Kirk has said that he still talks to Michael sometimes, not in a supernatural sense, but in the way you talk to people you've lost. He'll have a thought or experience something, and he'll think about what Michael would say about it. He'll hear a song and remember when he and Michael first heard it together. He'll see the ocean while surfing and remember sessions with Michael. The friendship doesn't end just because one person dies. It continues in memory and impact and the way it shaped who you became. The Michael-Kirk friendship is also a reminder of what true friendship looks like in the music industry. This business is full of people using each other, strategic alliances, relationships that last only as long as they're professionally useful. But Michael and Kirk were real friends before they had success, and they stayed real friends through all the ups and downs. They genuinely cared about each other as human beings, not just as bandmates. That's rare and precious. For fans, understanding the Michael-Kirk friendship adds depth to watching old INXS performances. Those on-stage moments between them weren't performance.
They were two friends genuinely enjoying making music together, genuinely connected. When Michael would smile at Kirk during a sax solo, that was real affection. When Kirk would lock eyes with Michael during a song, that was real trust. You were watching friendship happen in real time, and it made the music better. Kirk Pengilly is now in his 60s, still playing music, still carrying forward INXS's legacy. But he's also carrying forward Michael's memory in personal ways that fans don't always see. He stayed close with Michael's family. He's supported causes that were important to Michael. He's lived his life in ways that honor the friendship they had. That's what you do when you lose someone you love. You carry them with you and try to live in ways that would make them proud. The tragedy of the Michael-Kirk friendship is that it should have had 30 more years. They should have grown old together, watching each other become grandfathers, reminiscing about the crazy days when they were young rock stars. They should have had time to heal old wounds, to say all the things that went unsaid. But they didn't get that time. 20 years of friendship ended abruptly, violently, with so much left unfinished. But the gift of the Michael-Kirk friendship is that it existed at all. Not everyone gets to have that kind of connection with another person. Not everyone finds someone who truly understands them, who makes them better, who walks beside them through life's journey. Kirk had that with Michael for 2 decades, and while the loss is devastating, the fact that they had those years together is beautiful. The friendship shaped both their lives in profound ways, created music that touched millions of people, and left a legacy of genuine human connection. When Kirk plays Never Tear Us Apart now, with its iconic sax solo, he's playing something that he and Michael created together. The notes are the same, but the meaning has deepened. It's no longer just a song about love and connection. It's a monument to a friendship that death couldn't erase. Every time Kirk plays that saxophone, Michael is there with him. Not literally, but in the music, in the memories, in the 20 years they shared. And maybe that's the ultimate tribute one friend can give another, to keep making the music they created together, to keep telling the world about who they were, to make sure the friendship lives on even after one friend is gone.